Hello and welcome to another YouTube video here on this channel. Today we are talking about books and specifically how you can read more books. So now I tend to read around a book a week on average, but before that I hated reading. I would never read, and I just didn't enjoy reading at all and not listening to audiobooks either. So I count audiobooks as reading because you are actually reading or listening to the book and learning something. And that's the main point of reading. I also do a lot of reading for pleasure, but we will get back to that later. Let's just jump right into my tips. The first tip is to differentiate between reading modes. So it all depends on why I am reading. How I choose to read depends on why I am reading. So sometimes it might be a fiction book just for pleasure, and other times it might be a book like this one, so I can learn something from it, and I differentiate between those two things. I can read a book like this one as an audiobook, and I tend to do that a lot, but when I'm reading a book that I want to learn something from, I tend to sit at my computer or at my desk or at any desk actually with my notebook and taking notes while I read or listen to the book. When I'm reading fiction, I tend to do that in bed when I'm going to sleep and ready to fall asleep and don't want to use my phone. I tend to read a fiction book instead. So that's when I read fiction and when I read something I want to learn from, or non-fiction in general. I tend to read autobiographies a lot, and it all depends on what kind of autobiography it is, but most of the time I will try to learn something from it and write down the key takeaways. So that's the first tip: differentiate between reading modes. The second tip is to start slow. Start by 10 or 15 minutes each day. Don't overdo it. When we want to get into a habit, we tend to ask too much of ourselves. It is really hard to go from not reading at all to reading an hour each day, or 1.5 hours each day, or even 2 hours each day. Just start slow. The same goes for the amount of books you are reading. Don't set yourself too high of a goal. Just start slow and keep improving, keep getting better, and keep getting used to the habit of reading. That's my second tip. And the third one, and most important one, is to actually read things you love and things you find interesting. So I have bought a couple of books, both as audiobooks and physical books, as well as Kindle books. But I have started reading them, and I have figured out that I don't like the book. I struggle to read it. It just doesn't speak to me. So I tend to not finish those books. You can actually stop reading a book even though you've started. Only read books that you enjoy, only read books that are speaking to you, that you find interesting. And if a book doesn't do that, if it doesn't speak to you, if you don't find it interesting, go on to another book. You don't have to finish a book just because you have started reading it. And that's just 3 simple steps to get you started. You don't have to read 100 books a year, or even 52 books a year, or 10 or 12 or whatever it is. Just start reading. Start with 10-15 minutes each day. Enjoy the process. If you don't enjoy it, it probably isn't for you. If you don't enjoy picking up a physical book, I would rather recommend listening to audiobooks. I tend to do both because I like both, and it is all about how much energy and concentration I have left at the end of the day after I'm done working. So if I feel a little bit tired, I tend to choose an audiobook. If I have a lot of energy, I tend to choose a physical book. You just have to figure those things out. But the best thing you can do is to start small with 10 to 15 minutes each day. As per usual, thank you for watching. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe. Comment down below if you have any questions, and I hope to see you again quite soon.